Hello, welcome back. It is week 194 on Out on That Line podcast. I'm Jeff with my co-host Alex. As always, Alex, how you doing this week?
Jeff, do you remember those days hanging out at the Village Green? Of course we do, because they were phenomenal. How are you doing?
Well, seeing as of recording, the Yankees eliminated the Red Sox from the season last night. So that always feels good. First time since 2003. I don't typically talk about my Yankee fandom on this podcast here because it probably does not intersect a whole lot with the folks that listen to this, but I am quite pleased with the performance from my favorite baseball team last evening. So I'm doing pretty dang good. We've got some juicy stuff to talk about this week. I think we're going to have a good ripping episode this week, Alex.
I completely agree, and I think juicy is a great operative word for this week's artist. A juicy piece of fruit, baby.
I didn't even mean to do that. It's just, I feel like the wife of Noah in Wayne's World. I'm just opened my mouth and out it came.
Hey.
Well, there was a story, Alex, that I forgot to tell you last week because the previous Sunday before the pod we recorded about the what album did we just do?
David Byrne.
David Byrne album we just did. I went to a concert at the Moody Center here in Austin, and it was free tickets through work, wife of the pod. So we decided, why not? Let's go see this artist. Okay, the artist is named Laufey. It's spelled Laufey. Apparently, a Icelandic pop star.
Oh, now I do know who this is. Not to cut you off, but I didn't realize. I thought it was Laufey, like Laufey the frost giant.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, what do you think about Laufey?
Oh, I love that album. I thought that the latest album was fucking great.
Okay, well, we are probably going to disagree here because I decided I wasn't going to listen to any, like it was a free ticket. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go, I'll just go hear the music. Right. And the person that opened for her was Suki Waterhouse.
I also like Suki Waterhouse.
Which that I didn't mind. That was fine. But we caught probably, I don't know, maybe 5 songs of that. It was pretty good. We get to Laufey, and I cannot tell you how mind blown I was that I was sitting in an admittedly packed Moody Center. I mean, this is probably 16,000 seats because they kind of cut off that back end of it for the stage, and they don't put seats behind there. So I don't know how many that cuts off, but it's like a 20,000 seat venue. Probably makes up for it with the floor seats. I don't know. Call it 18,000. But these people were all in the same uniform. It was all I was clearly of the older, certainly on the older side of people that were there to see this show. And so we get up in the HEB suite where the tickets were, which was very neat. Wish it was for a better concert. I honestly cannot tell you how baffled I am that will fill a 20,000 seat stadium. Cannot believe it.
So you didn't listen to any? It's going to have to get used to saying Laufey. You didn't listen to any of her music before you went to the show.
Mm-mm.
Maybe something got lost in translation. I don't know. What was the vibe? What was going on?
I have tried to listen to it since because I thought the same thing. I was like, hey, maybe there's just something I missed. All of these people are here for a reason. But I have a feeling all of those people also, I saw a lot of Taylor Swift shirts there. So I have a feeling there's a lot of people that listen to specifically the kind of artists that I just really do not jive with, I'll say.
Yikes. Well, also, first of all, as of recording this, happy Life of a Showgirl Day, Jeff. Big day.
Oh, my God. Well, apparently it's not getting great reviews.
Tay nuts. Oh, girlfriend of the pod listened to it first thing this morning and went, oh, no. I said,
yeah.
Thank you, God.
Yeah. Doesn't she talk about Travis Kelce?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't listened to it.
Yeah. I think she has a song specifically talking about how big his,
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. Sabrina Carpenter's a dirty whore, but Taylor Swift is classy.
Yeah. Can you imagine the suburban moms when their 13-year-old listens to that song and they're like, because you don't expect that from Taylor Swift.
What does she mean by trying to park the Kansas City Chiefs team bus in a tiny garage? What does that
Like,
mean?
can, can you can you like imagine if somebody like Weird Al all of a sudden had the like most like just went explicit, like somebody that you've trusted not to do that sort of thing, you know what I mean? And then when you heard like the first time the Jonas Brothers went on their solo albums, you're like, what is he saying? Cake by the ocean? What does that mean? Oh, is that what that means? And you just, and like when Britney Spears like came out, you were like, this seems very weird from this like little Disney Mouseketeer to now what we're seeing on our screens on MTV. And it just like that, I feel like it's got to be that jarring because I can't imagine there's been anything like that that she's ever really written.
She is just she's like a sexless robot that just figured out how to use its legs, and everyone's shitting themselves 'cause, like, she shows side butt on the front of her album, and I'm like, "Who cares? Sabrina Carpenter's getting dragged around by the hair like a dog." And I, for one, support it because I think she's got a fun persona and the album is fun. I listened to it. Maybe we should do it. But I'll tell you what, I'm sick of the goddamn Taylor Swift hype train. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about more albums. They're never good. They're never good. So happy Showgirl Day, everybody.
Well, what do you say we talk a little bit about, maybe a lot of bit about Blood Orange and the album Essex Honey?
Let's get after it.
Yes. So Blood Orange, my familiarity came from Turnstile, and they did the song Alien Love Call, which is excellent. And you hear I feel like Blood Orange influenced Turnstile quite a bit. I don't think it was the other way around because even from Glow On album, there was a lot of that like influence, like a lot more of the kind of synthesizer parts or keyboard parts, I guess. You know, a lot more of an electronic influence on this otherwise hardcore music. Because if you listen to like earlier Turnstile, like they're like a song like Real Thing, you know, it's just a really good hardcore song. You know, it's a really good just banger, but there's not a big build up. There's not a lot of electronics, and certainly not like they did on Birds. And what I really like about Blood Orange is Blood Orange kind of sounded to me like if The Weeknd went by a different moniker, he could make music like this. And I say that as a compliment because I think it's a very introspective version of music, which is I find really appealing. I think anytime someone can look honestly at themselves and whether they get an inflated version of that or not, you know, it's appealing. It's, you know, the honesty is always appealing. It's that authenticity that we're always kind of talking about, right? It honestly didn't feel like super British to me either. But there were definitely some things where it made you understand like where he was coming from. You know, so there were some moments where you kind of caught the accent, but for the most part, it felt like very like bedroom pop to me in a lot of places. You know, there were some moments where it kind of like really built up and then really left you hanging. The way they like cut the end of these tracks was also a little bit jarring sometimes. Like none of them really bled into each other, but it all still kind of flowed together. It was very interesting for me.
Yeah, and there were some parts where it did flow into one another and certain motifs were repeated,
Mm-hmm.
which I really appreciate because a lot of the stuff on this a lot of the songs do tend to sound similar, not like homogenized, but similar. But then when you kind of lock in and realize, like, well, if you think of it as one long meditation on grief and growing up and reflecting
Mm-hmm.
on life, if you're thinking about that in your own life, it's going to take a tangent. So like there are these like digressions and tangents within that framework that give it its flavor, but for the most part, it does to me kind of feel like one long thought, one long introspection. And you took the words right out of my mouth with the weekend part because I was thinking about that on my most recent listen through. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, damn, this is like it's got that kind of like the weekend was intentionally trying to simulate, you know, you're floating in the ether, he's floating
Mm-hmm.
in the ether from a near overdose and just
Yeah,
like,
like
am I gonna
heavily
die?
reverbed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very dreamy, kind of taking place in this like to use an artsy word, liminal space that's
Mm-hmm.
outside of you know the present. Um, and it's such an interesting infusion of pop and prog and dream pop and R&B There's a lot going on genre-wise, but it's subtle. The moments where it does flow into one another are really great, and then there are some kind of, like, abrupt cuts, but again, to me, it flows like, Dewey Cox has to sit and think about his entire life. Like, he's really meditating primarily on the death of his mom in 2023,
Mhm.
but a lot about his upbringing and being bullied and just kind of the feelings that he has about home. And it doesn't have the same like bombast that The Weeknd has, but I like that. It's not
Yeah.
like this is going to turn into a club banger. It just kind of remains at that. This is one that like demands for you to like pay attention and sit and engage with it in a similar way to that Lonnie Holly album we did like 2 years ago,
Mhm.
where it's like as like listening to music, it's not like, oh yeah, there are jams on here that like really get me going. It's like
Yeah.
this is art. This is art that I like to sit with.
Mhm. Yeah, there I think it's a lot of it's like the vocal timbre that he has is very much in that same kind of range that The Weeknd has. So like I think that is the immediate reminder. And then when you really listen to it, I think there's a lot of the deeper cuts. So it's not like it's Starboy or Take My Breath or one of those songs where they're really that big bombastic version of pop music and the club bangers like you mentioned. It's more of the kind of deeper cuts from those albums where it's really maybe there's not even a drum beat to it, and it's just really or really the Weeknd's earlier albums, like the songs like The Birds, those kind of songs to me, that's more indicative of like this style of music. So I think The Weeknd kind of grew into this larger than life character, and so did the albums kind of as he went. I like that Blood Orange, and that was a character. I like that Blood Orange is not a character. It's maybe the moniker Blood Orange. Obviously, it's not his real name, but it's like it's still from his honest place that he's writing these songs. Blood Orange is just what he puts on the marquees and gives him some semblance of like something to kind of like keep between himself and the rest of the world.
Yeah, Blood Orange is like the name of the project because Dev Hynes is the
Mhm.
man behind this. Um and he's very interesting, does a lot of different stuff with like experimental music, composing, writing for film and television, writing for other artists. Just a very like well-traveled, interesting, very prolific kind of
Mhm.
person. Um but I think the first Blood Orange I heard years ago was Charcoal Baby. Very different from everything. Like
Mhm.
recognizable in some of the like rhythms of it and definitely like the vocal timbre and some of the synth use, but much more R&B poppy, a little more towards the Weekend end of
Mhm.
things. Um so hearing this album and being like, "Oh, it's very much got like a dance, house, electronic, very synthy component to it, which is very different than a lot of the stuff I've heard before, like really steering into that. But I think it works because that sound lends itself so much to,
Mhm.
again, occupying that space where you're reflecting on your life, you're thinking about the way that certain incidents make you feel, you're being very expressive like that. This is one of those like diary entry albums to me.
Mhm.
Private in public, we're kind of getting to share in the sentiment. Um, I think it's a great evolution of what I've heard before. Like there are some really fun songs off of Negro Swan, I think was 2019 maybe. Um, Great album. There's a lot of like great Blood Orange to like, but this felt like kind of going home in his mind to reconcile with highly British upbringing, the things that happened to him growing up, the things that happened to him
Mhm.
recently. What is it like to be a member of the queer community in England? Um, he's reflected before on like what does it mean to be a queer person in America in the first Trump administration, and so this feels like a lot of coming home to grapple with a lot of different things. And by the end of it, I think making peace with a lot of it and kind of coming to terms with a lot of it, which is very, very satisfying. Like the jarring juxtaposition in a great way that I had on my I had a long drive today from Bangor back to Turner. I had to drive up to Bangor today. And so I was driving back and I'm like, I'll get another listen in with Blood Orange. And I had enough time, so I snuck in the new Sabrina Carpenter, and I'm like,
Mhm.
what a total whiplash in
Yeah.
terms of like the time and place for these and the function that they serve. But I really love something like Blood Orange again as an art piece, as something that's a little more thoughtful, but it's also bringing a lot of great musical ideas
Mhm.
into the mix.
Yeah, I think the amount of people he had on this album, the choices were kind of perfect for the people he chose to be on this. We were talking about Turnstile. Brendan Yates was on this album. Um, I knew that song the first time I looked through, because the first time I listened through, like, I really just don't pay attention to song titles. I just listen through the album. I'm just like, I don't really want to know too specifically. I'm like, let me just get the vibe first. And then that song, I was like, well, this sounds an awful lot like some Turnstile to me, and turns out there's a reason for that. Even the song, this is like, even the song with Lord, Mind Loaded, with Caroline Polachek, Lord, and Mustafa, like the balance of those three voices, like Caroline Polachek is the one that probably makes the most sense of the people he chose to be on this album. Lord makes a lot of sense. I don't know that she does music quite exactly like this, but she definitely does that very introspective kind of bedroom pop sort of thing. Mustafa, that like really deep register was fantastic. And then Caroline Polachek is on So the Field, Mind Loaded, and then also The Train. So clearly they're buddies. Did three songs together. And The Train definitely sounds like a Caroline Polachek song. It's just a really, really solid cast that he had on this album. And it kind of made me realize like all these people probably like him a lot too. Which is why they did it.
And it's provides a lot of room to stretch and a certain extent anonymity, and not like you're trying to hide from something, but like on the first listen, if like, Spotify and my car had not been like Caroline Polachek, it wouldn't necessarily have picked up on it the first time. Definitely would not have plucked Lord out of the mix. It's, I think, very generous contributions from artists that are happy to be there and happy to play around in this.
Mhm.
Because why wouldn't you want to be a part of something that's sonically interesting and also like emotional? It's like a friend asking you to, sing at their wedding kind of thing.
Mhm.
Like, it has that same kind of like you're being invited into something very intimate and asked to help bring
Mhm.
it to life. And I think it's great. There are, like, to go back to the Japanese Breakfast album we did, what is it, for melancholy women and sad brunettes or whatever it is.
Mhm.
Um, the song with Jeff Bridges, I love. It's the one I listen
Yeah.
to the most off of it, but it is a jarring companionship, which I think
Mhm.
is what makes the song work.
Yeah.
But I don't think this album would have been the time and the place to be like, and we've got a great feature from Dua Lipa.
Yeah.
Like, this is a Blood Orange album. This is Dev Hynes working on Dev Hynes.
Mhm.
This isn't, I think, a time where anyone needs to like show up and pull focus. So
Yeah.
it's great to have you have Daniel Caesar in this. Um, it's great to have these people kind of like beefing up this idea and helping to present this introspection, but
Mhm.
never like quite pulling focus. And for like, I will say, for a 46-minute album, it feels very long, and not in a
Mhm.
dragging way, but it you do kind of get absorbed into it, and it tends to go on, especially as like one thought. It
I
does
think it's
feel
those
long.
it's the repeated motifs that he
Yes.
does. I
Yep.
think that's why. Is he
Yeah.
kind of it makes you lose sort of track of where you're at in the album.
Yeah, anytime you're like, "I don't wanna be here anymore," you're like, "Wait, wait, wait, wait.
Yeah.
I've heard that before in, like, 2 other songs. What?"
Mhm.
And it kinda it catches you off guard in a good way. So,
Yeah.
for something that kinda sounds the same, and I don't mean that as a dig, something that sounds the same all the way through, those are nice ways to keep you on your toes. I really
Mhm.
appreciate that about the album.
And it's a really the reason it works because it does all have some very common elements kind of throughout every song. There's a couple little like real variations here and there throughout the album, but you're right in saying that it does have very similar vibe through everything is because it's a very like direct vision. it's the vision is there, the execution is there to make that work, because there's plenty of times that somebody's tried to do a very direct division. The kind of thing I'm thinking of is like the Ballad of Dude and Juanita by Sturgill Simpson. Like, not every artist is going to be able to make that a compelling album. A lot of artists are going to turn that into just a cheesy slop fest. I think if you're going to do something where everything sounds like it came from the same place, and like you basically just kind of sampled yourself, so to speak, like throughout the album, you have to have strong melodies. You have to have lyrics that are worth engaging with. You have to have vocals that are worth engaging with, that kind of deliver on those emotions and those feelings that you're trying to get across. And I think they all of the guests, Blood Orange himself, like all of them do such a good job at that throughout this album. It really makes you feel kind of exactly where they're at. And I think there's, when you go, especially when you go through and like look at the lyrics as you listen to these and really allow yourself to understand them, because there's a lot of reverb. It's very dreamy, so there's definitely some things that you can miss. And so you get the vibe of it, but when you really read through and specifically see kind of how he's constructing all of these things together, and all of the people that are on there, basically they look like they're all co-writers or given co-writing credit on every song. So I wonder if that's why those stand out so much, is because there are more ideas kind of bouncing around. But all of the guest appearance songs, those were all really the bright spots for me.
Yeah, and I would say, like, in terms of, I'd be curious what your kind of favorite songs were on this, because The Field was the first
Hmm.
one I think of, and that's star-studded. That's got a ton of people on it.
Hmm.
Um, I had some weird favorites, so I liked The Last of England, I liked The Train, and I listened every night. As we got to the end of the album and I listened
Hmm.
every night, I was like, "Oh, wow."
Yeah.
Like, some of these tug on your little heartstrings. Sometimes
Hmm.
you'd be forgiven if you thought someone was cutting some onions out there in
Yeah.
this album, I gotta tell you.
So I
Yeah.
loved Somewhere in Between. I thought that was a fantastic song. I really loved The Field. I didn't love Mind Loaded as much as The Field,
Mhm.
but it wasn't because Lord was in it. That's not the reason. It just, I felt like The Field was just a banger of a
Stronger, much
song.
stronger,
Yeah,
yeah.
much stronger song. Really, really like Countryside a lot. Scared of It, obviously. That was my favorite song on the album. And then I Listened Every Night was also one of my favorites. That was a very striking song to me.
Yes, striking's a good way to put
Yeah.
it, especially, like, right at the end too, because I feel like we've listened to a lot of albums this year that some of them have a tendency to run out of steam or kind of slouch to the end or make a really weird choice at the end, and, like, weird is great when it pays off, but there have been a
Hmm.
couple albums, and, like, unfortunately, I can't, like, really quote you a specific. Maybe the last 2, the Haley Williams album and the David Byrne album.
Hmm.
Um, there just seem to be, like, certain stumbles in 2025 on, like, there is kind of a lot of pressure on how you end an album, because, like, in screenwriting, they say you can write a turd, but they'll forgive you if the audience will forgive you if the last 10 minutes rocks.
Hmm.
Um, so there have been some interesting choices, some swings and some misses this year, but I really thought that I Listened Every Night was, like you said, striking. It's like, yeah,
Hmm.
wow. It does kind of, with one song left in the album after that, um, it's like it was a bold positioning, and just like a really kind of wonderful song to take it out on.
Hmm.
Um, all of which is to say, for me, because I only have so many ways I can be like, this is wonderful art.
Yeah.
For me, it's a stream it. It's a stream it. It's not a buy it purely because I think I've expressed before that, like, a buy it for me is something that, like, changes my world.
Hmm.
This gave me perspective on someone else's world. This gave me perspective on Dev Hynes. This gave me perspective on the evolution of Blood Orange. Um, this was a nice time away from my world and time away from my mindset, and
Hmm.
just kind of exploring someone else's interiority. So it's an emphatic stream it. But, for the criteria I've laid out for what makes it a buy it, Doesn't reach that, but it is quality all the way. Highly recommend.
Yeah, for me, I think I'm gonna be split between what I'd say I'm straddling stream it and buy the CD. It's definitely not like buy the vinyl territory for me, but I'm somewhere in between. If I find the used copy on CD, I'm gonna buy that. That's what I'll say. That's my straddling the line. I'm just adding notches in here so I don't always have to go so extreme everywhere.
Right.
I'm just leaving myself a little weasel hole to get out, you know?
Hey, you know what? Sometimes
Yeah.
you got to put the woe boner in the weasel hole. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So yeah, for
Yeah.
me, I'm not gonna stray too far from you. I feel like a strong stream it or like a half-hearted buy the CD or buy the CD used. Those are probably pretty equal. Yeah, when you think about it.
Yeah, our ranking system doesn't always necessarily lend itself to a lot of nuance.
Yeah.
That's fine. So I mean, if you wanted to, if we had one solid set of criteria for both of us, that's one thing. But I think I like that it means different things to both of us. Like
Hmm.
what makes it a buy it, what makes it a stream it, and we just kind of use that common language. But so sometimes when we get to the end and we're like we gush about an album, then we get to the end and we're like,
Hmm.
yeah, listen to it. It's like,
See,
what? What the fuck? You loved it?
See,
It's like, yeah,
it's for me, it's either like when I think about buying an album, if it's an artist I love and an album I love, I'm gonna buy the album on vinyl. Now, if it's a song that, an album I love, I'll buy it on CD if I can't find the vinyl, or if it's just I don't love it as much as I want to for a vinyl. But it's really like, is this song gonna sound badass on my speakers?
mm.
And I think this album will sound badass on my speakers. And that's my criteria.
I agree. And I think there's also like I'll cop to a little bit of hipsterdom that I think every vinyl collector in their hearts knows is true to an extent. There is somewhat of an element of having a cool collection
Hmm.
where like the dream is somebody comes over and they pull an album out and go, no fucking way you have Caroline Rose, Year of the Slug. No way you have the crazy Japanese jazz fusion album, The Big Wave, which I turned Tanner onto and he found a fucking copy of it. I do not have a copy of it. They're all like $70 on Discogs without the shipping from fucking Japan. And he found one at Burlington Records. That son of a bitch.
And he didn't buy it for you.
Gobbled it up.
Shame. Shame.
We've got summer right
Shame.
here in our hearts. You and I might have to cover that one. It's
Yeah.
fucking awesome.
I feel like that was the way you described the right kind of vinyl collection. I feel like that was some shots fired at our boy Tanner.
Not necessarily shots fired because I definitely have like a curatorial look to my stuff as well. But the man's got a large collection, and
Hmm.
I don't think he's afraid to be a little show pony and stunt on the folks.
Yeah. Well, he saw a large collection of fastballs from Cam Schlittler last night as he ended the Red Sox season.
Spot on.
So I hope Tanner's out there listening to this. He never listens to the episodes unless he's on them because he's narcissistic like that, like most Red Sox fans.
Hey.
Well,
Excuse you.
just I don't know. Are you feeling defensive? Did I touch a nerve, Alex?
I'll tell you what else you've touched is my heart by being here and doing this show with me. And I know what you thought I was going to say. And I'm sure you probably thought you knew what I was going to say based on the other material that exists on this channel. And I can't fault you or the viewers for that because we do have a long and sordid history of these kind of things at youtube.com/C/out on that line. Gang, I'm not here to try to do revisionist history or make apologies for who I am or the things I've said. I don't think Jeff is either. I want to speak for Jeff, but I don't think Jeff regrets anything. I don't think he would take any of this back. It is all on the public record, and you can access it. If you go to youtube.com/C/out on that line, click subscribe, click the bell to get notifications, click the thumbs up to like the video, leave a comment on this video, on other videos. It is the most helpful thing you can do. We looked at our statistics. A lot of y'all aren't subscribed. What is that about? You stop through, you come through the house, you don't take your shoes off, you drink our bourbon, and you leave. I'm sorry. What is that about? The least you can do is subscribe. I won't make this a long, drawn out, crazy one, folks. This is just, I'm speaking to you, one man to a nation of fans and music lovers alike, appealing to your humanity, appealing to your love of the game. And we love the game. at youtube.com/C/out on that line.
Well, that was very measured and classy. Which is really not what you expect from a Red Sox fan. Until next time, folks.
Fuck me.